Hello everyone, this is Pooka, and welcome to another Pokemon TCG video. We've already looked at the top 3 decks from the US National Championships, and today we'll look at the 4th place deck, piloted by Calvin Nordberg. And here we go, a Team Plasma deck. So no surprise, we see a Team Plasma deck doing well on the big stage, US Nationals. Team Plasma decks have been around for almost 2 years now, and it seems like they're just always going to be super strong no matter how many counters there are out there for this kind of a deck. It's just so powerful that it doesn't seem like it can ever be truly stopped. So, normally we've seen decks with Lugia EX be the main focus in this season, but no, this is going to be an old-fashioned Kyurem deck. So we have Thundurus, Deoxys, and Kyurem. Kyurem is going to be our main attacker. Frost Spear does 30 and then 30 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon for just 1 water and 1 colorless energy. 130 HP non-EX Pokemon. And then Blizzard Burn does 120 for 3 energy. Now these numbers aren't very big. Normally this is not enough, especially considering Kyurem is going to be knocked out pretty easily a lot of the time by those big Pokemon EX. But these numbers get increased very quickly by a lot of different factors. Number 1 is going to be Deoxys EX. Power Connect gives that Kyurem 10 additional damage for each Deoxys EX we have in play. So all of a sudden, if we have 3 Deoxys EX on the bench, Frost Spear is doing 60. Blizzard Burn is doing 150. And this starts to get out of hand very quickly. On top of that, we have Muscle Band to add 20 more damage to the attacks. And if that weren't enough, we also run 4 Hypnotoxic Laser and a Burbank City Gym as well to add all sorts of ridiculous damage. So this is a very aggressive deck. We want to use Kyurem very quickly to use Frost Spear, start spreading some damage around, and really try to overwhelm the opponent before they can set up. We've already seen Deoxys EX. It does have Power Connect. It also adds a solid attack in Helix Force, 30 plus 30 for each energy attached to the defending Pokemon if Deoxys EX has a Plasma Energy attached to it. So this is very good against things that likes to have a bunch of energy. You can hit out of nowhere with this Deoxys EX with just a Prism Energy, which we do run 4 of. This provides every type when it's attached to a basic Pokemon. And then we also have Colress Machine, an item card that allows us to search for a Plasma Energy and attach it to a Team Plasma Pokemon. So with these Colress Machine, 4 Plasma Energy, 4 Prism Energy, we can load up Deoxys in 1 turn and use Helix Force. Now the other big Pokemon in this deck is going to be Thundurus EX. 1 energy does Raid and Knuckle for 30, and then you take an energy out of your discard pile and attach it to one of your bench Team Plasma Pokemon. This is a great attack just to hit for a nice solid amount of damage, and then we also get energy acceleration at the same time. Just an awesome, awesome card. And again, it looks weak with only 30 damage, but let's say we have 3 Deoxys EX on the bench that's already doing 60, a Muscle Band, now we're doing 80, a Hypnotoxic Laser, now we're doing 90, a Burbank City Gym, now we're doing 110 damage for just 1 energy, and that is pretty ridiculous if you ask me. So these 3 Pokemon are the core of the deck. Kyurem is going to be your main attacker, Deoxys is going to be support for that additional damage, and Thundurus will also be kind of support, but it's also an attacker, and it's mainly good against Yveltal EX since we have this nice lightning type symbol here. Yveltal EX is weak to lightning, so we get very easy knockouts on those Yveltal EX with enough Deoxys EX, Muscle Band, Hypnotoxic Laser. It's very easy to hit that Yveltal EX for a 1-hit knockout. Our last Pokemon is going to be Genesect EX. The main reason this is here is for that red signal ability. When we put a Plasma Energy on it, we get a free Pokemon catcher, basically. Bring out something on the bench. That's pretty much it. So you can never go wrong with that. It is a Team Plasma Pokemon as well, so we can use it in this deck. We can power up Megalo Cannon if need be with those Prism Energy. We don't usually do that, but that is an option as well. Alright, so those are the Pokemon. Not a very complicated deck by any means, but very powerful. We've already seen the lasers, the Muscle Band, the Burbank City Gym. What else do we have in this deck? We also saw the Colress Machine. Beyond that, the deck isn't too complicated, I guess. It's actually very straightforward. We have 4 switch, just to make sure we can switch out of that active spot with ease. 3 Team Plasma Ball. This can search for any Team Plasma Pokemon. 1 Ultra Ball. This can discard a couple cards and then search for a Pokemon. You might wonder, why are we running this instead of just all Team Plasma Ball? Well, sometimes it's nice to be able to discard energy to use Thundurus EX's Raid Knuckle. Also, at the end of a game, if we're worried about our opponent playing an N on us and putting us down to a low hand size, Ultra Ball is very good for discarding excess cards that we don't need any longer. For example, if we have, a couple of Kyurem that we don't need anymore, or I don't really know, maybe we want to discard our own N's so we don't draw them anymore, or an extra Verbank City Gym, things like that. Ultra Ball helps us to just discard those so we don't draw them in the future. Alright, now our supporter line is a little wonky. We'll take a look at it. We do have 4 N and 4 Professor Juniper. That's pretty standard. Almost every deck's going to run 4 of those. Alright, but from there we have 2 Colress, also a pretty standard card. But then here's where it gets a little strange. 1 Skyla, search for a trainer card. We see that a lot. 1 Bicycle, a nice item card, draw it to 4, and then 1 Shauna. Shuffle in and then draw 5 cards. We don't see Shauna too often. It's just interesting to see. We have 4, 8, 10 draw supporters here, 11 and 12 with Skyla, and then 1 Bicycle, and then 1 Computer Search. We see this a lot in decks that try to skimp on those supporters a little bit. Computer Search allows us to kind of get away with that and, just kind of be more consistent still with that Computer Search. Just can search for anything, so it can search for a supporter if we need to. It's very good in these aggressive kinds of decks. And I believe the last card we have is this Lysander. Just 1, so you never know when you're going to need to pull something off the bench. Just a very good card. Our energy is a little unusual compared to other versions of this deck. We saw the 4 Prism, the 4 Plasma, and we also have 2 Blend Energy, 2 Basic Lightning Energy, and then 1 Basic Water. Just some extra protection against those enhanced hammers, which can be very annoying for this deck. Now, there's something you may notice about this deck. Well, before I get to that, there are 2 Startling Megaphone. Use those against Garbodor. Alright, but there's one thing you may notice about this deck. There are no evolution cards. That's right. This player said, Pyroar, whatever. If I run into it, I run into it. Big deal. I'm going to lose. If I don't, my deck's going to be very strong against just about everything else. Go figure. Calvin did end up losing to Michael Pramwatt's Pyroar deck in the top 4, but he had a very, very good run before that, and he's just kind of playing the odds, saying, you know what, I don't think Pyroar is going to be that popular. I'll just take my chances. You can't beat everything, so whatever. I'm not going to ruin the consistency of my deck by adding those evolution cards or things like Latias EX that may not even work anyway. I'm just going to go pure consistency here, be aggressive, and hopefully that works out. Now, it's worth noting that against Pyroar, you can pull off a few tricks. Number 1 is going to be those lasers. You can still use this to poison a Pyroar, so it's going to be very useful, along with that Verbank City Gym. That can add up, if 2 full turns of poison and Verbank does get rid of Pyroar. It'll be 30 going into their turn, 30 back, so on and so forth, until it's knocked out. That's really the only trick you have. The other thing is just going to be Thundurus EX's Thunderous Noise. Now, Pyroar does not get damaged by basic Pokemon, but it can be affected by them still. So if we use Thunderous Noise, we can actually discard energy attached to those Pyroar. That's one of the other ways we can maybe steal a win. Otherwise, you just kind of take your loss and deal with it. In the future, this may not be such a great idea, considering Pyroar was so popular at US Nationals, but hey, this is the deck, this is what we're going to run with. Alright, so let's see our Team Plasma deck in action. I'm sure we've seen this deck played over and over and over, but let's see it once again. See this list in action. So we're going up against JLM86 and, Pyroar. So that is certainly not something we want to see right off the bat there. That Pyroar, not going to be good for us. So we're just going to open up with that Kyurem, get an extra card from the mulligan. I'm going to bench the Thundurus EX as well. And we see a Reshiram and a Litleo. You see the Hypnotoxic Laser starting off Reshiram not particularly threatening. The thing we're worried about there is that Litleo on the bench. Of course, Pyroar is a giant pain giant pain because of that intimidating main. And we'll have to see if we can somehow deal with this. We do see the Professor Sycamore after the Professor's Letter getting a bunch of energy into the discard pile, so you never know, Blacksmith could come up at some point. Muscle Band going on to the Reshiram, and this may be the end of my opponent's first turn, but a very strong one at that. DCE onto Reshiram. Oh, never mind, we see a Pal Pad shuffling in to supporters. And then an Ultra Ball. This turn is far from over, apparently. We'll see what this Ultra Ball grabs here. Another Litleo. Oh, boy. And a Bicycle. Sheesh, this is the turn that never ends. And a Charizard as well. So all sorts of strong things coming out of my opponent's side. A Muscle Band goes on to the Charizard, and he's just going to pass the turn. All right. Now, my opponent was left with a 2-card hand after that, so I am not going to be too fond of playing an N in this situation. We'll just go ahead and drop that Prism Energy onto the active Kyurem. Juniper trying to hit a Chorus Machine and failing miserably. We're going to go Plasma Ball for the Deoxys EX. I could use the Hypnotoxic Laser here, but it seems like that would just fuel the outrage, so I'm just going to hold off on that. And I do need to save those Hypnotoxic Lasers for Pyroar, so it's kind of a struggle here. Yeah, I would like to take those prizes early on, but man, I need those later for Pyroar. But uh-oh, we see a Blacksmith right away. That is bad news. Turn to Blue Flare on that Kyurem. Uh-oh. I don't like where things are going right now. And oh boy, not a great hand here. Again, those lasers are going to be so important later on to be able to knock out Pyroar. I really don't want to Juniper this hand away. If I were to laser here, it doesn't seem like a very good plan either. That would just increase the damage on Reshiram's outrage. So we're going to go with the Raid and Knuckle, get the Prism Energy onto Deoxys EX. At least we know Deoxys later can help out against Charizard EX, since it does need 4 energy to use Combustion Blast. With a Hypnotoxic Laser and a Burbank City Gym, we can use Helix Force for 150 and then finish off that Charizard. So it's a pretty nice response to a big Charizard. But there we see, uh-oh, the Pyroar. Uh-oh, the second Pyroar. Uh-oh. And at this point, you got to think things are looking very grim. But again, we did hold on to those Hypnotoxic Lasers. I'm just trying to find some way to come back from this kind of a situation. We do see a Hypnotoxic Laser from my opponent poisoning that Thundurus EX. And boy, this just does not look pretty by any means. There is the Outrage for 90 damage. I do top deck the Kyurem there, so that's a very nice top deck there. We can at least Raid and Knuckle onto that. My idea here is going to be to try to set up a double knockout. We can hit again with Raid and Knuckle for 50 damage, and then power up the Kyurem on the bench, and then next turn get a red signal, and then try to go for a big play with a double knockout with Frost Spear, since we will leave this Reshiram left with 30 HP. Again, Juniper is not my friend here. Don't want to discard those Hypnotoxic Laser if we don't have to. And this may be playing a little bit too conservatively with these lasers, but it feels like this is a bad matchup, a bad situation, and I don't think I'll be able to deal with Pyroar unless I hold on to each and every one of those lasers. They are just so important. I guess we'll have to find out what happens. Now that Reshiram does have 100 damage on it, so Outrage will take down this Thundurus EX, unfortunately. And my opponent will go down to 3 prizes, a very strong opening from my opponent. The only thing going for me is that there are a lot of benched Pokemon that are not named Pyroar. That's the only thing we can take away from this. Now, a top-decked Muscle Band there was very big. We can go ahead and Red Signal out that Reshiram now. There's 2 Deoxys EX on the bench, so we're doing 50 with a Frost Spear. Muscle Band makes it 70, and then times 2 for the weakness is going to be Frost Spear for the knockout on the active, and on that benched Reshiram as well. So we take a nice 2 prizes there, and whoof, we have that Shauna. So we won't have to Juniper away all of those lasers next turn. Alright, so we're trying best as we can to hold on to our resources. Charizard EX does come into the active spot. We wouldn't particularly mind that, and there's a Burbank City Gym as well. If Charizard does Combustion Blast for a knockout, at least we'll be able to get a Helix Force, potentially with Deoxys EX, and then with that laser, like I said earlier, get a knockout on a Charizard that has 4 energy. But we see a Mewtwo as well. Oh man, this is getting very scary. Pyroar may not even come up in this game. I'm actually pretty glad my opponent started to bench all those other things. If it would have just been me against those 2 Pyroar, I don't know if I would have been able to win. It just seems like almost impossible, but we do have 4 Hypnotoxic Laser left, so I don't really know. And there we do see the switch into the Pyroar energy going on to the Charizard EX, and then my opponent will just pass the turn after that. Alright, so we got the Deoxys EX down on the bench. Gonna go with that Hypnotoxic Laser and play that Shauna for 5. I'm very happy to see Shauna in this situation. And I have a Prism Energy, not really sure where to put it. I may just play it on the active for right now. Doesn't really seem useful anywhere else at this point. Or we could just keep it in the hand. I guess that could walk into Mewtwo's X-Ball, but whatever. We're just going to Frost Spear for a mighty 0 damage, but we're going to hit the Charizard on the bench as well. Softening that up for a potential Frost Spear or just an easier Helix Force in the future. Now here's the thing. My opponent seems to have run out of gas at this point after that explosive opening. Pyroar is poisoned, so that is pretty good for me. I do have that Lysander though, and it seems pretty tempting to go after that Charizard. My thought process here is if we knock out Charizard, we just need to red signal the Mewtwo after that, and Blizzard Burn will win the game. So hey, let's just go ahead and take our chances here. My opponent has 1 card. Let's just Frost Spear for 160 damage. Hit the Mewtwo for 30. Why not? Get those 2 prizes. And from here, wow, look at how quickly this game has turned around. The double knockout on that Reshiram, the quick knockout on that Charizard, and now we're just down to 2 prizes against Pyroar, but there is a Mewtwo on the bench. So it seems like at some point we should be able to pull off this win, and maybe this is the turn we can do it. I do have a Deoxys EX. Doesn't seem like I should put that down. Maybe just put down Thundurus EX. We'll go ahead and use that Chorus Machine just to see what's in the deck. I don't feel like I should ever be using Chorus Machine anymore. We just need to draw that Plasma Energy for the red signal, and no. Looks like a swing and a miss on the red signal. So instead, we may have to just retreat. If I left the Kyurem active, it would have been knocked out from poison, so that's not a good idea. Let's just go ahead and retreat into the Thundurus EX. Use that Hypnotoxic Laser. Start to poison that Pyroar. And go for that Raiden Knuckle for 0. But we do get the energy back on to the bench Kyurem, and we'll see what happens from there. Okay, so there's an army of Pyroar that we cannot do damage to. Alright, but there is a Mewtwo sitting back there that eventually we should be able to damage. My opponent passes once again, so absolutely ran out of gas after that that first initial burst at the beginning of the game. I do have this Skyla here. I'm going to go ahead and play that just to set up for the next turn. Skyla for that Computer Surge. Next turn we should be able to red signal for the game. Let's go ahead with another Raiden Knuckle. Getting another energy onto that bench Kyurem. The poison continues to add up onto this Pyroar. Oh man. You can see Pyroar certainly is a problem, but every once in a while you can get lucky against it in the right scenario. Here is an Ultra Ball, discarding 2 Burbank City Gym. Yikes. Not a very good hand for my opponent. We'll see if there's something like a Jirachi EX coming out right here. That could be something that could save my opponent in this situation, but no, just another Reshiram. And looks like the writing is on the wall at this point. We have the Computer Search to be able to search for that Plasma Energy red signal next turn, and then Chorus Machine for the Plasma Energy onto that Kyurem for the game-winning Blizzard Burn. And at this point, my opponent even benched the Reshiram for some reason. So that means no matter what happens, we should be able to win here. But there is the Chorus Machine. Computer search. We'll search for that other Plasma Energy. And here we go. Red Signal. This is why Genesect is so great in this deck. We'll go ahead and switch into the Kyurem and get the game-winning Blizzard Burn for 170 damage. And our Team Plasma deck somehow takes down a Pyroar deck. Just shows you how powerful this thing can really be. Pyroar, not a good matchup. But hey, even against our horrible matchup, we managed to take down a win, getting quick knockouts on those Reshiram and Charizard. Alright everybody, hope you enjoyed the video. I will certainly have some more for you soon. I am Pooka from the Top Cut, and I'll see you guys next time.